creamy baked macaroni and cheese. Let's make it. Hi, it's Tanya from My Forking Life, and today we're in the kitchen and we are making one of the most classic side dishes, macaroni and cheese. Now, this is a recipe that has been on my blog for a while, and you guys have made it every holiday season and you love it. It's also one of the very first videos that I did on this YouTube channel, and if you're bored, you can go back and watch that video. I think I've gotten a lot better over the years. Anyways, for this recipe, we're using a lot of the basic ingredients you'll find in a lot of mac and cheese recipes, except this one has 5 different kinds of cheeses. It also uses Velveeta, which keeps that macaroni and cheese nice and creamy. Now, I first got this recipe when I went on a beach trip, and let me tell you, the guy that made it, his name is Elgin, he made it for a group of us, and that mac and cheese was so good that I had to basically beg him for the recipe, and he was nice enough to write it down. From what he told me, this was adapted from the famous Patti LaBelle Over the Moon mac and cheese. He did add his own twist, and I'm gonna tell you, it's so good. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Enough of me yapping. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring 4 cups of water to a boil to prepare my mac and cheese. Go ahead and turn on my stove. And I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of salt. Salt every part. So we're gonna salt our water, add a little bit of oil. So when our water is boiling, our noodles don't stay together. I'm gonna bring this to a boil before I add my pasta, and I'm gonna cook it because that's what the box says, and that's all you need to do is follow the directions on the back of the box. We're gonna cook this till it's about al dente. My timer on, so when I put the noodles in the pot, and I like to cook it on the lowest time that it says on the box. My box says 9 to 11 minutes. I'm gonna cook this for 9 minutes. See, my water is boiling. I'll come back to a boil in a second. Now you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to do this so that when you are done prepping this mac and cheese, it can go in that hot oven. Now while my noodles are boiling, I'm going to go ahead and prep through everything else that I need to do for my mac and cheese. The first thing I'm going to do is use a little bit of butter to grease the inside of my casserole dish that I'm going to bake the mac and cheese in. Grease it. Another pro tip, when using the butter for this recipe, cut it into tablespoons. So I've done that, and you'll see why in a little bit of time. Well, one, so you can use a little bit to grease the casserole dish. Ba-ba. All right, I'm just over here. Drain the noodles. Noodle draining. So I have cooked my noodles. Ooh. They are nice and drained. And while they're hot, I'm going to take that butter and I'm going to basically place it in the hot noodles and let the butter soak and coat those noodles. That's why I chopped them into smaller pieces so that it can melt a lot faster in the noodles. And yes, I know that's a lot of butter. It's a lot of cheese. It's literally why this is like my holiday pleasure type of recipe. All right, I'm gonna let that chill over here. So for this recipe, I am using whole block cheese. I am one of those people that will always tell you when you're making mac and cheese to just get the whole block and shred it. Essentially because sometimes those cheese that's already shredded has that powdery stuff on it, which doesn't really always give you a smooth melt. So you can shred it by hand. Once I figure out how to use this food processor, that's what I'm gonna use to shred my cheese. I feel like I have this on backwards. Oh, okay. Alrighty. Get her done. No way, I'm gonna have to break that. Much faster. of the Muenster cheese. But nonetheless. And just a pro tip, if you are shredding cheese, it's better to have it cold than like warm. So keep it in the fridge until you're ready to do this step. This is a very big food processor, so it could actually handle all the cheese. Look at that. That looks great. Okay. So before I forget, I am going to set aside about a cup of this cheese because we do want to put a lot of that cheese in that mac and cheese, but we also want some cheese to put on the top of it once we get it prepped and ready. I do have one cheese left, and that's that Velveeta. And I'm not going to try to put that in a food processor because it's just going to get all really clunky. So Velveeta, it's better if you just cut it into cubes when you want to add it to your mac and cheese. And a lot of people ask, will this work without Velveeta? To be honest with you, I don't know. I feel like most mac and cheeses, you do need to make that roux so that it sticks together. And this is kind of what Velveeta does. It basically replaces the need for the roux and keeps this mac and cheese nice and creamy. I think that's small enough. I'll just mix it in, it'll melt. Don't cut yourself. Alrighty. So I'm adding eggs to this mac and cheese. Ooh. And I always say crack your eggs into a separate bowl. And we're gonna whisk that together. I've also got 2 cups of heavy cream here. Just gonna add the egg to that and just make sure it's all mixed together. La la la, la la. Anytime I touch raw egg or anything raw, I always have to wash my hands. It's food safety. All right, then I'm gonna go back to my big old bowl of hot butter noodles and I'm gonna add, you can see that butter has already melted into these noodles. I'm gonna add my heavy cream and all my cheeses. Well, heavy cream and egg mixture. Just mix that in there. Get it all in there. Oops. Along with our cheeses, I'm gonna start with some of that Velveeta. And all the cheese that we shredded, which is a lot. Ooh. Go ahead and mix in half of it and then mix in the other half. And I'm also going to season it. So I'm adding a little bit of Creole seasoning for some flavor. And just a little bit of salt as well. I'm gonna add a little bit of extra cheese on top. So much cheese. And you just want to make sure you are getting in there and stirring in all that cheese. Wonderful. That's a big old chunk of Velveeta. Let me make sure it's mixed. All right, I'm over here doing too much. I am going to pour this into this casserole dish. Now, look at that big old piece of Velveeta. See, over here trying to be disrespectful. I want you to melt all the way through. Alrighty. Now you can't eat this like this because there's raw egg in it, so we gotta bake it, of course. I'm just gonna make sure I spread it out. All right, so we have added all of this mac and cheese to our casserole dish. Now my recipe on the website calls for a panko bread topping. However, my folks don't want that this time, so we're gonna skip that. However, if you like a crunchy topping on your mac and cheese, go ahead and do that, it's delicious. But for this, I'm just gonna sprinkle the cheese on top so it's nice and bubbly and pretty. And we are gonna bake this uncovered on the middle rack in our preheated 350-degree oven for about 35 to 40 minutes until that cheese on top gets nice and bubbly. Alrighty, I'll be back. Hey! I love a beautiful golden mac and cheese. Like going to the Thanksgiving table with this beautiful presentation of mac and cheese. I'm so excited. I love it. It looks good. It looks real good. Anyways, we're gonna let this cool for 10 minutes before we start to dig in because it's piping hot. Yeah, but it looks good. Okay, so I have let this cool for about 10 minutes and I'm hungry. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a good bit of this mac and cheese. We got the little corner piece, the little crust, and that gooey mac and cheese. Now typically you would, of course, serve this along with your other meats and stuff, but yummy yum. Oh, that piece fell. Okay, I'm gonna taste this. Okay. Oh, it's hot. Oh my gosh. How many cheeses? 5 cheeses. Oh gosh, it smells good. Just how I remember. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm sorry. It's good. I keep eating it. Anyways, guys, I hope you love this recipe. It's literally one of my favorite mac and cheese recipes of all times. I think it will be one of yours as well. Until the next time, bye.